heretics, and welcome to another Friday night of jolly merriment. How are we both?
Yeah, it's good. It's no longer January, so things are looking up.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, we're just reeling from the news. The cold weather is, as in Apollo Creed, is passed away. Savage. If you're in our age group, that guy was a staple.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
of,
the news has just broken.
1980s and early 90s action film.
Yeah, literally as we were about to start recording, that broke. So, yeah, I suppose this episode is in honor of Carl Weathers.
I mean, I'm not making light of it. I mean, what? Yeah, I mean, how many times have you gone into a room and seen a good friend and not who you haven't seen in a long time and just been like, Dylan, you son of a bitch. It's just sad, really.
Yeah, rest in peace, Carl Weathers. It's I think it's you'll probably find that Predator and the Rocky films will pop up on TV over the weekend now. So, which is a good thing. I'll take some of that. I'll have some of that. I'll go and have a few drinks on Saturday and come home and know that Rocky 4 will be on. So I'll have that. Anyway, normal business. It's end of the month or beginning of the new month. It's already fucking January's already gone. So anybody doing dry January can have a drink now. I did about 6 days, I think. Pathetic effort. Padre's 6 or 7 months in, so it's
the 11th of February will be 6 months.
There you go.
6 months dry. It's weird. 6 months without smoking as well. So
drier than a nun's chuff. But anyway, that's not what. So look, every month we'll go back and we'll review, or we'll have a look back on some of the releases from the month. And like last year was just a relentless fucking barrage of releases, and thankfully January's been solid but relatively mid-paced, hasn't it? We haven't been hit too hard this month. There's been some good stuff, but not so many.
I'm sorry. That the level of entitlement. Oh, last year
too many.
There were so many albums.
Too many.
There were too many albums. Oh, my life is so bad. Oh, my wallet is too small for my 50s and my diamond shoes are too tight.
I was waiting for that one.
What the fuck? Seriously?
Too many metal albums released. Can't handle it.
Yeah.
But, it was hard to keep up with. So, but we'll try and do something a bit different this year rather than try and cram in 20 albums into one episode. So we'll kind of pick our own favourites and whatnot. But
you want the moon on a stick.
I do want the moon on a stick, a big fucking golden stick with balls on the end. But look, before we do that, let's talk about a couple of other things that have come out this month. So we start with the download announcement this week because that created a little bit of, what should we say, friction maybe, or grumpy old men doing grumpy old things on social media, usual kind of shit. Look, let's deal with the elephant in the room first. Busted are on the download lineup. Busted are playing Donington Park, and I know it's hardly Monsters of Rock anymore, but it is still Donington Park, and this is Busted playing this festival. So I think if anybody's going to have an opinion on this, it'll be Padre. So I don't even know where to start. I like to think that for a mid-40s, I'm relatively open-minded to a certain extent, but this is just pushing it just a little bit too far.
Well, quite frankly, I was appalled. I mean, in a country which is ostensibly still a maiden worshipping country, to have the hallowed sacred ground of Donington defiled by this band, it's a sacrilege too far.
And they have a stage headlining slot as well. They add that in as well.
That's the thing. Put the fuckers on the third stage and be done with it, But the main stage headline, like, who's asking?
No, they're not main stage. They are third stage headliners. So the Kerrang stage, in inverted commas, they're headlining on the Friday night.
That's slightly more palatable. It's
really not. It's really not, because they shouldn't even be there in the first place.
But again, it's just like what barrel are they scraping? Because just the rest of the bands. I mean, okay, Offspring are on there. That's was it the second day?
Yeah, Offspring are on there. Obviously Pantera, Machine Head.
Yeah, well, Offspring. Offspring are playing.
I can't be doing with I'm sorry. I can't be doing with Pantera these days. It's just, I love that band, and I can't. And it's Anselmo. Just if it was if it was Vinnie Paul, Dimebag, and Rex, and they got a new singer in, I'd be more inclined to go and see them than if it was Phil Anselmo and some other group of hired hands. I'm just like the guy's quite repulsive, and I've just got no time for him anymore. And I think as well, like, is he still on the booze? Because like you're going to get a sloppy performance if he is. Is he dry these days?
I think he's dry, as far as I'm aware, or he certainly was last time I saw anything of him.
I think he has to be dry, because we know what he's like when he's drunk, especially last time, and he's banned from Germany because of that. So I think had to accept he needs to stop it.
He's got to rein himself in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I'm with you, Padre. When the reunion first was announced, it was kind of like I was a bit uneasy with it, and as time's gone on, I'm just kind of not fussed. If you know what I mean, just like it's just another one of those reunions. And I was never the biggest Pantera fan. Don't get me wrong, I like Pantera and there's some classic stuff, but I was never one of those Pantera nuts. So
neither was I.
Not that fussed.
It's a reunion, but it's a reunion or a reformation under a very black cloud.
Yeah.
Because the events surrounding Dimebag and the band split up and all the acrimony that came with it, it just a lot of people it gets in the way of enjoying it for me. And I don't really, the music's not enough to get past it. And I think as well, this isn't like a Pink Floyd reunion where someone's managed to get them to like not want to slag each other off for a couple of hours just so they can get on stage. It's like someone got shot dead, you know. And then all the stuff around it, and it was like Dimebag wasn't even in that. He was in his prime. Like, I mean, a Pantera reunion now with the original lineup would be really cool, and I would definitely go and see it. But I just can't do it. It's it's not right.
No, it ain't. But look, that's only a small part of the lineup, because look, don't get me wrong, up and down it, there's some half decent stuff, and certainly lower down on the bill. You know, if you look right down to the Dogtooth stage, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be, there's some decent stuff on that, and you've got some bands that deserve the exposure and are going to get decent exposure from it. So that I'm all for.
May I be permitted to say to bring some voice of reason in on the Busted conversation?
Oh, fuck, you know.
No. There's no reason.
No. Go on. We'll decide how reasonable it is when you finish.
I mean, it's easy for like us of our generation to be skeptical and be disgusted, etc. And obviously, I mean, I'm a bit funny about it, but there is the factor that whether we like it or not, they were a bit of a gateway band for a particular generation.
Not this shit again. Not this gateway bollocks. No.
No. Let me speak. Let me fucking speak. There's going to be there. I know now. There are a lot of people who are going to want to see Busted and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that festival, they're into the heavier stuff now. Busted are a boy band. There wasn't anything like that for us at the time because rock metal was a big thing. There didn't need to be anything like that. The boy band thing was not really common when we were in our early teens. Your New Kids and your Take That's were aberrations in the charts. It's only after bloody Boyzone that they just started spewing out left, right, and centre. Gateway bands were just rock bands, but Busted had that difference. They were a boy band who played guitars. That was their thing. Of course, then came McFly. And for young girls who liked that kind of pop music, but wanted something different, they probably they were a big gateway band. And a lot of those people went on to be really into heavy music and still are today. And I think if they were playing the main stage, it could get a bit dodgy. There would be a few bottles of piss flinging about, I think. But on the third stage, I think you're going to see there people there that want to see them. And maybe, do they need to be playing Monsters of Rock? Do they need to be playing Donington? Can't they go and do something else? I'm torn. They're gonna have people go and see them. it's going to justify their appearance, and that's the facts at the end of the day.
You'll have the ironic crowd as well that will go.
Yeah,
because of that. And there is an element, like you say, there will be an element of, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but there will be an element of nostalgia to it as well. There will be an age bracket that will,
yeah,
like you said, have been around at the time. You know,
like some of my friends like them. You know, my younger friends who are into rock and the punkier stuff, they like Busted. So,
right, okay. Firstly, you've got no business being friends with anyone that likes Busted.
Fuck off.
Right. Secondly, saying that Busted are a gateway band to heavier things is like saying PG Tips is a gateway drug to heroin. Okay, it just doesn't fly, right? That and I've had enough of this gateway business. It's like with Tregenza a few months, well, back in the first year of the pod, Limp Bizkit were a gateway band. No, there's no direct line from Limp Bizkit to Emperor. There's no direct line from Busted to God knows what. You know, it's just like they're a commercial entity. That, you know, that's all they were. They were a cash in, and I don't think it's a generational thing either. When did they put their first album out? Was it 2004?
We're talking about 20 years. It's got to be.
I'm sure it's earlier than that.
Yeah, it's at least 20 years. At least
0102.
Yeah.
02, maybe 03.
So why is it? Why can't we? Why can we not comment on them? We were in our early 20s then. We weren't out of touch when they came out.
Yeah,
if we were 50, 55, 60, then yeah. But so I don't think that invalidates our opinion. Some bands are just shit. They're one of them.
They did.
There is an element of validation to them being on the lineup, and I can see from the organisers' point of view why they've done it. Because if there's one thing it has done, it's generated talk, and you know what I mean. It's generated an opinion, as we're doing right now, and we're probably just feeding into that. I mean, it doesn't seem. Look, some of the arguments we've had on social media this week has been a lot of the whole thing about metal festival, and that Download has never been a metal festival. It is a rock festival. It came along in 2003 when Reading was starting to go down the pan, and we needed somewhere else to go, and it has evolved into that. I mean, like you say, Fall Out Boy are one of the headliners.
Yeah, I've got a bigger problem with Fall Out Boy headlining the Saturday and Offspring being before them.
I've got a massive problem with Fall Out Boy headlining the whole festival. It's disgraceful.
I don't know who Fall Out Boy are. I don't know who they are. I've never seen them. I've never heard of them. I know nothing about them, and I like to keep it that way.
Well, that doesn't say a lot, to be fair, but it's yeah. I mean, look, some of the other bands that were announced this week: Blackstone Cherry, Enter Shikari, stuff like Electric Callboy, Tom Morello solo set.
That's going to be a big one. I mean, they're on the second stage, aren't they? Electric
Callboy, yeah.
That's going to be a big one.
Yeah, so your top three on that day: Machine Head headline and Corey Taylor and Electric Callboy. That'll be quite a big pull.
Well, is Corey Taylor still going to do it? Because I think he's pulled out of a lot of.
I think he's pulled out of the US stuff, and but as far as I'm aware, he's still on this lineup.
Right. Okay.
And look, you know, down the lineup there is some good stuff. Mr. Bungler on there, right? Biohazard, Fear Factory. For those who are into that kind of thing, you've got Dying Fetus. You've got
Limp Bizkit on there.
Limp Bizkit are on there. There is some good stuff down the lineup, but I don't know. As we said when the lineup with the headliners were first announced back last year, it's a weak festival this year. It's a really weak festival, and I don't expect ticket sales to be particularly good. Last year it sold out, but it was a strong lineup last year, and this just isn't. You know, you got to bear in mind this is a 90,000 plus capacity festival, and with those three headliners, it's a bit embarrassing. Is
Download still being promoted by Clear Channel?
No, it's Live Nation, but that Clear Channel became Live Nation, didn't they? There was mergers and all sorts, but now it's all under the brand of Liquid Death, isn't it? So fucking water in a can.
Yeah.
Do you reckon somewhere there's like some kind of like there's a high level conspiracy where these promotion companies are secretly trying to clone Iron Maiden and Metallica and Priest and Sabbath, so they can always bring them out every year just to ensure ticket sales?
But you see, this is it. You say that. I mean, look, again, we talked about this several times, but a while back when we did the whole episode, who's going to come along next and fill these slots? And if this is what we've got on offer, it's not it's not a sustainable future for heavy music in any way, shape, or form. You know, the three bands that headline that festival are not big enough to headline that festival.
Yeah, Europe does well. Hellfest gets the bands, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, look, every fucking year without fail. You know, but they managed to but that is a metal festival, that's different. But they managed to cross every genre of metal, whereas Download is very much a rock festival. It's got more in common with Rock am Ring and festivals like that than it does Hellfest, isn't it? You know, so look, it'll be an interesting one. See how popular it is this year. You kind of expect them to have already nailed down headliners for 2025, and I'd imagine it's going to be something quite big. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Guns N' Roses in 2025. You know, it's that kind of, maybe even AC/DC. They're going to go big and they're going to go hard, aren't they? Watch this.
AC/DC?
Yeah, AC/DC.
Yeah. Did you say AC/DC?
Yeah.
Who's singing?
Brian Johnson.
Is his hearing got better?
Yeah, they're back on it. They're back on it. I think they're.
I thought he was going deaf. I thought he was told he can't play live anymore.
He did have issues, but it sorted itself out, and they're coming back. So, but do you remember the last time they played Download? They weren't part of the Download lineup, were they? They had their own, you know, on like the Download T-shirts and everything. AC/DC weren't on it. The day they played was their own day.
When was that?
Fuck me. It's a fair few years ago now. I'd like to say 2008, 2009. Hold on, 2010. That was. It was essentially their own day. They were, you know, but that was AC/DC, Rage Against the Machine, and Aerosmith that year. Therein lies the difference. But look, we'll see. None of us are going anyway, so it's really not that important. But it's an interesting conversation point because things are changing, whether we like it or not. But aside from that, Damnation also announced their first bands this year. Festival that none of us have ever been to. And for anyone who's not aware of it, it's in Manchester. It started in Leeds, didn't it? When it first came along years ago. They moved it to a bigger venue in Manchester. It's always been something a bit different, Damnation. I've always been intrigued about it and always thought about going. But I think this year, they haven't announced any headliners yet. But so far, got Bleeding Through, which is a massive tick for me. Nails, Russian Circles, Gatecreeper, who, once I got my head around them, I thought were really good at Bloodstock last year. Ruins of Beverar, Celeste, Ahab, Duel. It's always very different, the Damnation lineup. And I got to admit, I'm keen this year. It's a one-day thing, which is nice and compact. It's all indoors. So, look, Bleeding Through. How fucking good were Bleeding Through back in the day?
Well, yeah.
You went to that the final show.
Quarry Box final.
Yeah, at the Underworld.
Yeah.
Which was when?
2014.
Oh fuck me, 10 years. Jesus, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it was because it was early April and it had actually snowed those couple of days. Yeah, because I've got a mutual acquaintance with the singer Brandon in California. I haven't spoken to him for a while actually, but just sort of said hello to him and got talking about him, and it was like, what the fuck's going on? I know it's Britain, but it's April.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, yeah, I love that band. So looking forward to the new stuff. I won't be going to Damnation for reasons I can't justify it this year, but yeah, it's one of those where if it was a bit easier and a bit less costly, I'd be very tempted because, you know, there's enough stuff there to pull me in.
Yeah, and I do like what they do. They try and offer something a little bit different. Like it'll be bands playing celebratory sets of certain albums. Like Unearth did the Oncoming Storm last year.
Yeah,
in full, which would have been quite cool. But it's this is why I think we almost don't need to moan about things like Download, because we've got Bloodstock, we've got things like Damnation, and all the other little festivals that pop up. Like Steelhouse Festival has got the Almighty headline in this year, which is, I think that was a great one from them.
Yeah, I mean, but I think we said for a while, you know, that's their get them on a biker festival day or whatever.
Exactly. The old Bulldog Bash days, kind of thing, innit? And we almost don't, those of us of our age and what we're into, we almost don't fucking need Downloads. I don't even know why we're complaining about it, but yeah, I do fancy Damnation. I'll wait and see what the headliners are. Prediction wise, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them's Dillinger Escape Plan.
Oof. Okay.
Botch. They just seem like what those type of bands I think are going to be both got reunions this year. So watch this space. I think. Where's he gone?
His connection's not been great tonight, has it? So
no, it hasn't. We've lost the Holy Man, unfortunately. I don't know where he is, but hopefully he'll reappear in a minute. Should we talk about the new Bruce Dickinson single while we're here? Because I really like that. I think it's better than the fucking Ragnarok. What was it called? Afterglow of Ragnarok. I think it was a much better song.
Solid. I mean, it's not soaked in yet. I probably need to come back to it, but yeah, I mean, it's big and big chorus.
Have you watched the video?
Not just yet, no.
Oh fuck me! You got to love Bruce Dickinson. I mean, the video to Afterglow of Ragnarok was just overblown nonsense, but this one's quite funny. To be fair, it's I don't even know how to explain it, but it's all in black and white. It's all very like a 1940s pseudo horror film of some kind. But it's
okay.
It is all good fun as you'd kind of expect. But yeah, I like it. I really like it. To be fair, I'm looking forward to the album even more now. And he's doing fucking signings, which
I
a ticket for. It brought the HMV website down. Went on there to try and book it, and the whole thing just went tits up. Bean was trying to book as well, and it just went, oh, for fuck's sake, and gave up. And it was about an hour before it came back to life. But yeah, that's going to be an odd one. Mid-40s, meeting Bruce Dickinson, that's going to be a strange one. That'll require a couple of beers beforehand, I think. Otherwise, just be
because it's like, how much do you talk about Iron Maiden? That because it's obviously him doing his thing, and it's like, well, you are still Bruce Dickinson, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it'll probably come out as.
You know what? The thing is, when I go to Comic Cons and Marks and whatnot, and I go to a signing and meet my favourite artists and all that, I'm terrible with what to say. I don't know what because they all get the same sort of thing. How did you get inspired for that thing? Tell us about your approach. Really loved your work on that. Are you going to work? I just usually go, just love your work, man. Thanks for making comics, because I just don't know what else to say.
And I think that's all you need to say.
That's it. But with Bruce, I've got that added dimension that you don't, where I can say, I want to talk to you about this comic a bit more. What actually, rather than talk about the music and Iron Maiden, actually be a nerd, and he might think, oh great, yeah, someone gets it, kind of thing.
You know what? Knowing Bruce Dickinson, he probably would. I think he would probably take to that.
Yeah. Sadly, I'm not going. So.
No, I doubt there's going to be much time for conversation. There's probably going to be an awful lot of people and whatnot. But just being able to meet the man, thank you for the music, as corny as that is, get the album signed, and that's it. That'd be great. It was
look. It'll be like when I met Stan Lee, and I was speechless. Basically, I took my photo. He had laryngitis on the day, bless him. But I just, once he signed my thing, I looked at him and shook his hand and said, "Stan, thank you." And then I went behind and just cried in front of the booth babes. I've just met Stan Lee. So yeah, that'll be you.
Yeah, it pretty much will be. But look, I'm fine with that. I'll have a couple of beers beforehand to ease the nerves. But yeah, like I said, like a giggling schoolgirl. But still, I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun. Right. So while we're waiting for him to come back, should we have a dig into some of January's releases?
Yeah, let's dig into January, like the snow bound.
So we throw the biggest one into the mix first, because this is one for you, the new Green Day album, which I've only actually listened to once. So one of the biggest bands on the planet. So let's.
Although, maybe it's worth saying this now while the Holy Lordship is not here, because.
Oh look, there he is.
Oh. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Green Day, which I know might sort of raise a few eyebrows on this pod, but fuck you, basically.
No, absolutely not.
I've not been into Green Day for 25 years. I mean, you had the 3 albums in the 90s, Dookie, Insomniac, and Nimrod. I saw them at Brixton, start of 98 with some mates. And after that, getting into other things, new metal, whatever, then etc. Lost interest. Didn't really pay much attention to American Idiot despite the fact I worked in WH Smith's and had the entertainment section at my disposal, didn't really, just didn't bother. I think I was just into other things at the time, and they didn't take my fancy. But I think as I've got older and I've got back into metal real big time and tried to spread my musical wares in rock, and revisited a lot of the stuff I enjoyed, and this album sort of come out, and it was getting a bit of good press, and they're in the news for other things and bits and pieces, and I just got thinking about them as a band, and how they're essentially unchanged. So let me talk about this album for a bit first. This is a really good album. It's a Green Day album, straight up. There's no surprises here. There's nothing special or anything interesting in that regard. It's a Green Day album, but it's a very good Green Day album. It's, I expect people will be saying it's their best since American Idiot, possibly their best since Dookie or Insomniac. I don't know, because I'm not too familiar with a lot of the stuff that's come since. But it is them doing what they do. So you've got that bounce, you've got that catchy chorus things, you got that swagger. It's Green Day, but they still sound fresh. You've got stuff like Look Ma No Brains, which is just classic singles, Green Day single sort of territory. And then you got the big old swingy sort of shouty choruses like One Eyed Bastard. And then you got stuff like Dilemma, which is a little bit, not acoustic, but a little bit more restrained, a bit more lovelorn. And you've got this massive sort of old 60s pop harmony, sort of, not too far away from Motown or something like that, or those kind of girl groups. Same on Bobby Socks. Again, that sort of retro pop stuff coming along. And then you got a track called Corvette Summer, which honestly, it sounds like John Cougar Mellencamp.
Fucking hell. And
it's got, again, they're a rock band. They're not punk rock. No, we'll come on to that shortly. But they are, just a classic rock, anthemic rock band at this point in time. They can do the softer stuff, the melodic stuff, and they can do the big anthems, and they can do the bouncy punk rock stuff or whatever. And it's a damn good album for what it is. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it will probably be in my top 40 at the end of the year. So yeah, if you're an iron in that regard, I would say give it a go. What I wanted to sort of talk about Green Day, though, is something that's been a bit of a bugbear of mine about punk rock and pop punk. Because it got me thinking, you always listen to what you want to listen to, what you enjoy, regardless of what other people might think. And it's always bugged me how Green Day have been lauded with this sort of landed rather with this sort of sellout label for a very long time.
Yeah, very much so.
It's always pissed me off in some ways, because for me, I think the reality is that punk rock started out as an alternative to the elaborate rock stuff that was going on in the 70s, wasn't it? Your Pink Floyds and your prog.
It was a reaction. It was an upstart, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, you got all the social stuff, which I don't want to get too deep into because we haven't got time.
Yeah.
But from a musical point of view, it was an alternative. But what it was an aggressive appropriation of old school pop music, early 60s surf pop, 50s rock and roll.
Yep.
Some 60s, even the Motown stuff. It was, you listen to stuff like the Ramones and the Buzzcocks and the Damned. You got all of those kind of old school bands. It wasn't just the shouty, we hate everything. It was pop music, and it was more pop than what a lot of teenagers were listening to at the time. It sort of come on from the glam rock stuff there. There was still elements of that, but it started out as punk music. I mean, we can talk about your proto stuff like the Stooges and the MC5, and that's a bit different. But the first proper punk rock band of that era was the Ramones, wasn't it? Before the British stuff hit.
Yeah, who I maintain are one of the best pop bands that's ever been.
Exactly. They punk rock, yes, pop group, Also, yes.
Absolutely.
They combine both, and that was it from the start. You know, you think of all the you know, the great British bands of the 70s. They brought that into it. Yeah, I think people talk about punk rock as if it is by default this harsh sounding, obscure, you know, inaccessible thing. And you know, bands like Crass or Discharge or Throbbing Gristle, for Christ's sake, they came later on, and they were the outsiders of punk rock in itself. They were not the originators. They were not the, you know, the people that created punk. You know, the punk rock started with these essentially these pop bands.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, in all honesty, it's always pissed me off how any kind of punk rock band, certainly from, you know, the latest stuff, the American stuff, has been sort of written off as pop crap because, well, firstly, they are pop groups, and that's fine. And secondly, that's part of what punk rock is. Without pop, you wouldn't have punk rock, for Christ's sake. And when people talk about like pop punk in a derisory manner, it just feels like you don't even understand punk rock's history. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's, you know, each to their own. But Green Day are no less punk rock than Crass, as far as I'm concerned. And it's kind of just always, you know, pissed me off that I think, you know, people
it's just a different delivery of a similar
exactly yeah.
message.
Look,
you know,
and the thing about Green Day is early on when Dookie hit, they got barred from the Gilman Street venue in San Francisco that they played at to begin with because, well, not because of music, or it's because they'd sold to a major label.
Yeah, they sold out. Yep,
that's it. They sold out. But it's like, well, hang on a minute. The classic punk rock bands went straight onto a major label, didn't they?
Yep.
A few of them were on indies, but Ramones were on a major label. Fucking hell, Sex Pistols, they signed to about 3 major labels before it all went well. But I mean, Christ almighty, they are a manufactured band, but that's a different conversation entirely.
It's gay, you say.
No,
it's fucking true.
It's true. It's true.
I know.
They were fucking adverts for a shop on the King's Road, for Christ's sake. So, you know, let's not forget that, whatever they sung about. But yeah, Green Day, oh, you're sellouts because you sold to a major label. And it's like, they haven't changed in 33 years. They are pretty much the same musically that they've always been.
Yep.
Yeah, because they wanted to, you know, actually get their music out properly and just not, you know, play to fucking, you know, 2 blokes and a monkey for a baked beans every night. They're called sellouts, and you know, lots of people across the world love their music. I mean, they're playing stadiums for fuck's sake, and yes, the prices are ridiculous, but they're a popular band, they're a pop group, and that's absolutely fine. And yeah, it's just the whole look. I'm not a pop punk connoisseur by any means. Most of it I have no interest in, but it's always really grated me that it's dismissed by people who think they're more fucking punk rock than thou. And yeah, just wanted to get it off my chest basically because it's a good album and it deserves respect.
That was very impassioned, but I completely agree with you. Look, all you could say about Green Day is they do the same thing. They've just matured. They're not singing about wanking anymore.
Yeah, this is the thing is I listen to a lot of stuff I've listened to some stuff in the top 10 just, you know, out of curiosity. I dip in, and Green Day sound fresh compared to some of the stuff because so much of it is all mished and mashed and crossed over so much, you know, the pop and the hip hop and the R&B and the electro and the whimsical indie guitar bollocks, basically. And here come Green Day, you know, in their 50s with lots of bounce, lots of oi, and hey, it's great.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
So yeah, fair play to them.
I'm all for that. Well, that's 20 minutes of an episode gone just talking about Green Day.
Yeah, sorry.
Right, so a couple of others this month. I haven't got anything that's kind of really blown me away this month, but just a few that I think may stick. One in particular that I think is going to stick, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm still talking about this at the end of the year, was Sirens by Moon Wizard. Look, I saw it on K-Man's list last Friday, I think it was. Like the artwork, it's probably going to be up my streaks. It's kind of doomy, stonery type thing. First listen, it was all right, but I persevered with it, listened to it 2 or 3 more times, and I've come to completely fall in love with this album. I think it's just fucking great. One of the best analogies I read of it was like Stevie Nicks fronting a stoner band, basically.
Okay, I saw that.
It's got that sort of you know, the big vocals and the big choruses and all that. But like songwriting wise, it's so full of hooks, and it's got great lyrics. It's got great riffs in there for the heavier parts, but it's just really good. I would say it's even more, if there was such a thing as doom hard rock, it's that. You know, it's not massively heavy, but it's too heavy to be that sort of retro 70s type stuff. You know, like bands like Bloodstar that we loved last year. It's very similar to that, but a bit more fuzzy, I suppose. So look, like I said, great vocals. This is definitely going to stick, this one. You know, you just know when you listen to an album a few times and you keep going back over it over and over again, that I've put it on the list for the year. I just think it will stick. Unfortunately, it's a digital only release, which sucks, but it's self-released, so that's understandable. You know, the cost of vinyl, but anybody's into that kind of thing, I strongly recommend listening to it. It's really good. And when I put it on Twitter a few days ago, it's had loads of love from people. People have just gone and listened to it and loved it as well. So yeah, get involved with that. It's a really good one. Another quick mention I'll give to Resin Tomb, Cerebral Purgatory, came out on Transcendent Obscurity. Probably the heaviest, angriest, and most aggressive album you're going to hear this year. Just fucking relentless. I first listened to it at 5:30 in the morning on the way to work. It was just like fucking, it was like being in a 35-minute long car accident, basically. Look, it sounds like Nails and Nasum have fucked and just bred the ugliest fucking baby. It's just a horrendously disgusting noise, but for some reason I got hooks out of it, and there's good breakdowns in it. It's weirdly catchy, but at the same time, I listened to it a couple of days ago and I had a banging headache and I couldn't listen to it. It was too much. So it's going to be it's one of those. I think you've got to be in the mood for it.
Am I right? Is this the album that someone on Twitter compared to Converge?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because listening to it, I did get that, and I think I love Converge. I know you don't, but they click with me. And this did remind me of their heavier moments, you know, with that sort of that real nasty sort of hardcore, but real upping the sludge and ditching the melody and whatnot. And yeah, it did remind me of that. I mean, overall,
I get that. I do see the similarity, or hear the similarities, definitely. But from the limited knowledge I've got of Converge, this is a lot more aggressive.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, I think Converge got a lot more dynamics going on. I think that's kind of ultimately why it's probably not clicked with me, this album. But on the other hand, I was like thinking, yeah, I get this. I get why people like this.
Yeah,
and appreciate it for what it does. It's oppressive.
Yeah, it's like having the shit kicked out of you, basically, over and over and over again. Which, if you're into that kind of thing, this will be right up your street. And they're Australian, weirdly, that hotbed of extreme music. So yeah.
Well, it is, with the heat down there. I mean, that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's got to give eventually, isn't it? So look, one I think we'll all three of us will have opinion on. So I'm interested to hear what you've got to say about this. We had a promo of this a few weeks before it dropped. I listened to it a couple of times, and straight away, like, I sort of sat up and took notice of this. Upon Stone, Dead Mother Moon came out on Century Media. I'd be interested to hear what you two think of this album, because I think it's fucking great.
I agree. I'm not sure why I like it though, because I was thinking about this earlier. I'm not sure if I like it because it reminds me of In Flames. There's something about
In Flames when they were good, just
Yeah. Okay. So for example, I think the third song and the second song, My Destiny, A Weapon, and Ongs Through the Heart, sounds like it could be off Clayman, and I think it's good to have influences, but I'd like to see, I think this band have definitely got something about them, but I would just be a bit wary of how far can you go on being not a copy, but too heavily influenced by by a band. You've got, at some point you've got to do your own thing. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but some of the interludes, and that you've got the twin guitar harmony melody, and the guitar tone is the same. It's the actual guitar tone that makes it sound like In Flames.
Yeah.
And then some of the song composition reminds you of the way In Flames around Clayman and Horacle structured their songs. And that's not a bad thing. And there's a lot of stuff going on this album that I quite like. Like I said, especially the guitar playing.
I know what you mean about the guitar tone, though. It is very, very early in Flames.
Yeah, definitely
depth to it.
But it's a good tone. It's a good sound, and that's what really perked my ears up and made me to, kind of just stop what I was doing for a song or two and just kind of sit there and just listen to it. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'll continue to listen to, and I would recommend listening to it as well. But I think a lot of people that are familiar with that 90s melodic death metal coming out of Scandinavia are gonna hear something in that. So
yeah. I mean, it is a throwback album, big time. I mean, it's, they clearly love their 90s Swedish death metal. But like you say, early In Flames, At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul era, bit of Entombed there, bit of Dismember, all of that kind of stuff. It's all in the mix. You'd think it was made at that particular period. That's how much of a throwback it is. It's it could have come from that era. I think for me, I think I enjoy it more in that regard. I think the songs are okay for the most part. I think you've got highlights like Onyx Through the Heart, which again, you've got that sort of intense opening before it just kicks in proper reminiscent of In Flames, riffing away there.
That's got a really good classic rock type of guitar sound in it as well. That song,
absolutely.
I really love.
But I think, like I say, it feels like they've maybe put a bit more effort into trying to sound like those bands and maybe write the best songs they can.
Yeah.
At the point in time. But look, I think they're quite young anyway. And it's a 30-minute album. It's a debut album, and again, it's come from out of nowhere. Never heard of them at all. And so, we're absolutely going to cut them some slack at the moment. But if they can produce an album that people can at least enjoy listening to for some reason, you're on the right track. But I do think, they got to, I suppose, work on the songs themselves, on the quality of those, and not just rely on a sound that is going to draw people in.
Yeah, I go along with that. I think one thing that stands out over the really early In Flames stuff, because one weak point for In Flames was always Anders Frieden's vocals. They were never the strongest, even in the death metal days. They were never the best. I think the vocals on this album are a little bit more in your face and a bit more aggressive. There's almost a bit of a 90s hardcore type of delivery in the vocals. They're a lot more aggressive. So I think that helps carry the album a little bit more. And like I said, some of those sort of classic rock guitar solos, it sits in the mix really well. And you're right, as a debut album, they've got huge potential. They come back on album number 2 and they've got some like 4 or 5 absolute banger songs in the mix, then they've got huge potential to go quite a long way. So, look, I love my nostalgia. We all do. And anything that comes along that sounds like 90s Scandinavian death metal is always going to make us take notice. Like the Majesty's album last year, I think we were all hoping to get that out of that album, weren't we? And it didn't quite deliver as we expected.
For a number of reasons, it kind of lacked, and I think this is a bit of a step up.
Yeah, it just sort of hits those spots that album didn't quite reach. So, yeah, I think like you said, just enjoy it for what it is. It's like a classic Swedish death metal album. So, if we can get that in 2024, then I'm fine with that. I'll take that. I'd like to see them live to see how it comes across.
Yeah.
How they can then deliver that with a bit of presence. So hopefully, it's in a grubby little venue somewhere. Yeah, I think it's or a support slot with an At the Gates or someone like that. You know, something along those lines would be good. What else have we got in the mix? What else has tickled the fancy?
I wanted to. I'll talk about Sovereign briefly. Sovereign, their album's called Altered Realities. Now it's a debut. I believe they're an American band.
It's a debut. Fuck me. It's fucking adventurous for a debut album, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. How can I describe this? I mean, in a very, very basic comparison, it does sound like, classic Slayer, fucking early Death.
They're Norwegian, apparently.
I'm Norwegian. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I got that wrong. Okay. Yeah, it's we're talking sort of 1987 kind of sound, but it's it's got that big cavernous kind of drumming going on and echoey kind of production. But there's a bit of technical stuff going on there. So I think people mentioned Nocturnus, for example.
Yeah.
But you got some heavy, proper headbang, heavy metal galloping riffage going on in the mix. There's a lot of different things going on. There's a few twists and turns. It's quite dark in places and whatnot. And it was something that caught my attention sort of, earlier, above all of the other albums. I think all the other albums that I sort of mentioned, and it's the one I give my attention to. Having said that, and I should be quite transparent, it's not quite gelled with me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm similar.
And I wanted it to, basically. But this is me being choosy, quite frankly. This is just me being. This is not a. I don't think this is a detriment of the album itself. I've seen a lot of positive words about this album. People saying, "Fucking hell, where did this come from? It's brilliant." I've seen some very good reviews, which is kind of what led me to it. And again, I think it's doing things that it's very old school, very 80s, but it sounds fresh compared to a lot of stuff at the moment. There's so much death metal out there, so much black or whatnot, and it's just there's a melting pot going on here, which clearly people do enjoy. And I would actually say that there's going to be a lot of people like this album, even if it didn't quite do it for me.
I think the fact that it's taken some time probably means we'll still be talking about it in 3 or 4 months' time and potentially at the end of the year. I've only listened to it a couple of times. Again, same thing. There's moments in it where you just kind of stop and think, yeah, fuck me, that's a riff. It's got the hooks. It reminds me of 90s Death, when Death got a little bit more adventurous. Padre, I reckon this is probably one for you.
Yeah, it's worth you.
There's definitely a Chuck influence in there, with classic thrash, and that's what makes it interesting, I think. But it isn't a straightforward listen, is it?
No, I don't know. Maybe the production needs to have a bit more oomph to it, because, like I say, it's got a distinct sound to it. But I like a bit more power. I like things to be a bit heavier. I like the melody.
It's got a punch, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I need that punch. So, but I think a lot of people will like this album. So,
yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of raving about it on social media. So it's obviously the artwork's really cool as well.
Yes,
I'm a little bit torn over the logo, because like the N is round the wrong way, so it looks like the S at the start, because obviously for symmetry reasons, and I'm a little bit sort of a bit uneasy about that. It looks like Sovereign rather than Sovereign.
Yeah, it's not quite accurate, is it?
So that doesn't quite sit right with me. But I'll let them off because they've got symmetry, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, it's one to keep coming back to. I think we'll be talking about it again. I think you can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Right. What else? Dissimulator, lower form resistance. Whenever $20 Spin release an album, we always inevitably will talk about it. But this is a bit more along. I don't know. It's hard to describe this album. I'm still not quite into it properly yet, but I can, again, a bit like that Sovereign album, there is definitely something in this.
I would agree,
but I
definitely.
can't pinpoint it.
I've had issues with this because I was listening to it today, and there were a couple of moments where I stopped and I was like, I like where this is going, and then you kind of then you get parts of it where it kind of just doesn't really follow what's come before, and I think it's gonna. This is not a first listen. Yeah, this is a great album. This takes time, but it's very the musicianship on it is very tight, and there's a lot of promise there. It does take me a lot longer to get into anything with growly vocals. It's just it is an impediment. So like with upon the stone, right? Upon Stone, their guitar playing is good enough that you just think, okay, I don't need to listen to the vocals because that's pulling me in. And with the Simulator, it was the parts where there's no vocals and you think, yeah, okay, there's a really good riff there, and then the vocals kick back in again. And it's like it's not doing enough to hold my attention, you know. So, and that's just my opinion. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just one of the reasons why it takes me so long to listen to stuff these days is because stuff that's got clean vocals is going to pull me in a lot quicker. And I don't know if that's an age thing or not, but you know, I am very picky when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why I'm picky about death metal as a whole, because if the vocals in death metal are full on balls deep Cookie Monster, I do struggle with it. There has to be some dynamism in there somewhere. It's got to shift a bit. So
this is kind of why I think we're less keen on Chris Barnes as we are Corpse Grinder.
Exactly. That's the perfect example. When I listen to old school Cannibal Corpse, I really struggle with it. But the later stuff, you know, like you said, the Corpse Grinder era is a lot more, dare I say it, accessible. But look, is that a bad thing? Just because it's death metal doesn't mean it can't be accessible.
No, absolutely not.
You know, so it's there's a time and a place for everything. But yeah, this is I'm gonna keep persevering with this because there's enough in it that I like to not want to write it off. And I can see a lot of people love this album, so there must be something in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely sticking with it. I like it. Well, I like it at the moment, basically, and I hope I still like it because, there's something that's pulling me in a bit more than the Sovereign album. I think this month.
Yeah,
it's for me, it's more like a technical thrash album, which I'm not going to say I'm an advocate of specifically, and I've seen a lot of people mention Voivod as a comparison, and that's a band who I'm not very familiar with, and I've still got to give a go on my journey.
It is very Voivod-y. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So there you go. There's a reason for me to do so. But I think what strikes me mainly from this album so far is there's a really satisfying crunch in that production.
Yeah, mid-range crunch.
Yeah, that guitar sound, I do like that. You know, there's not a great deal of melody, but there's enough groove and enough riffing going on there. You know, it's balanced just to, for me, it's just got it right in a lot of areas. And what I do like about it in some places is the bass sound. There's a really thick, rumbly bass sound that's clearly underpinning everything, but just, it's, not stoner bass, but it's just thick.
Do you think, and this is just comes because you talk about the bass, but some of the riffing in it reminds me of Justice for All, Metallica.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you talk about the bass lines, you think if Justice had thick bass lines, this might be what it sounded like.
This might be a really stupid thing to say considering what we do, but in the same way as Justice for All, the guitar riffs sound metallic. Yeah. And I don't mean metal.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I mean, actual machinery metallic. Yeah,
it's but these are the albums that, because these days look, we can be very dismissive as music fans these days because there is so much. You can listen to an album and give it 40 seconds and go, no, that's not for me, done, and just push it away. But albums like this, an album like the Sovereign album, they're going to be the ones that that could potentially be quite high up on a list at the end of the year, because you're going to keep having to go back because there's something in there.
Yeah.
Keeps pulling you back in. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this sits at the end of the year. I'm going to keep listening to it, and it's yeah, it needs volume, definitely. The louder it is, the better it is, and like I said, that crunch really starts to come through. So yeah, watch this space, I think. Before we talk about the essentially the headline album for the month, a quick shout out to Engraver Rituals. Came out right at the beginning of January. I think it was one of the first releases. Polish doom band, very Sabbathy, very sort of 70s kind of doom. But yeah, I really love that one. It's nothing that kind of really jumps out at you, but it's just a really good, solid, stonery heavy metal album. And I think if you're into that kind of thing, give this a shot.
You know what? It's not my thing. I'm like I say, I'm definitely not a doom advocate, and I'm probably never going to be. But I did give this a go, and it sounded like The Mission doing doom.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair shout.
The singer really, he reminds me of Wayne Hussey. He really did. So there's a cleanness to it, but I found quite refreshing. So
yeah, it's quite easy listening. It's not particularly gruff or aggressive or heavy in any way. It's quite bluesy, and it does just kind of sort of plod along. And like I said, none of the songs really stand out, but I think I listened to it on a motorway journey first time, and that was the right place to listen to it. And it was just a really good, easy listening album. And unfortunately, again, it's a digital only release. It would have been a good vinyl release, I think, because I would have just sat and listened to it in a cliche, cheesy, obvious kind of way. But yeah, look, really worth a listen. Right, the biggest release of the month for us was Lucifer 5. We heard a couple of songs before it, and it was really promising. And I made a prediction that this could be potentially one of the albums of the year based on a couple of singles. And I stand by that after hearing the whole album. But I'll be interested to hear your two thoughts. We've discussed it a little bit, but not in any great length. So let's hear it. What do we think?
I love this album. Straight up, classic heavy metal / classic rock, old school choruses, riffs, Sabbathy riffs, hair metal riffs. Great big classic female vocals, a la Heart and Stevie Nicks.
Yeah. Again, it's another one, Stevie Nicks and doom, and
Yeah, you know what? There's some slow. I mean, fucking hell. There's a potential first dance at your wedding song on there with a slow dance in a crypt.
Slow dance in a crypt. Yeah.
So yeah, you've got that. I pointed this out to a couple of my mates just to say this is probably up your alleyway because it's just classic rock and it's got what you like. It's the kind of album, quite frankly, that would be a lot more popular if the music industry was a bit different, because there is no reason why people's dads, as in older dads, might not like it. Granddads and people who were there in the 70s and the 60s and doing stuff, because it's got that sort of vibe. It's a classic rock album. It really is. Well produced, no nonsense, no bollocks. And it's like I say, it just makes me sad that they won't get a look into the charts because it just doesn't happen anymore.
No, why would they? I mean, it's look, there will be a UK show later this year. The band did reply to one of my posts on Twitter, but I'm going to keep.
You're going to get blacklisted at this bloody rate.
Yeah, I probably will, but you know what? Fuck it, I don't care. Once they've always been a really good band. Every album that's come before, it's been really solid, really enjoyable. Always liked them, and I think Joanna's vocals are one of the things that make them so appealing. Her vocals just work really well with the sound, but this one they've really nailed it. 5 albums in. And they've just hit their stride now. It's the combination of great songs, the Sabbath style riffs that are in this, the bluesy Sabbath style riffs. They're just, you can't help but get involved in it. It's just so fucking catchy. A Coffin Has No Silver Lining. That'll be one of the best choruses you'll hear all year. It's just brilliant. It's just absolutely, like I say, bands like Heart, bands like Fleetwood Mac. it's got all of that in the mix, and absolutely fucking adore it. Before Padre weighs in about how shit Fleetwood Mac are, but
No, I mean, like, look, Fleetwood Mac have got their place, but it's just not for me.
have you listened to this?
I've started listening to it. Look, it takes me a while to listen to this stuff. I was kind of waiting to see what you guys said, so I have to go away and listen to it. I haven't given it much chance at the minute, so
It's quite an easy listen, so you can have it on in the background and just enjoy it, sort of thing. It's it works just as well loud as it does just as background music.
I'll listen to it and then I'll get back to you next episode.
That's good of you. You come back to us. But yeah, look, it's I think it will be up there, top 10, top 20 at the end of the year. I've enjoyed it that much, and I've listened to it to fucking death in the last week. Constantly. It's been on in the car all the fucking time, and finally got around to listen to it on vinyl today as well. So yeah, and look, hopefully, I'm sure it'll just be a one-off London show, Underworld, Blackheart, somewhere like that, probably. So whatever it is they do, so it'll be nice.
And that's a shame because they need a bigger venue. Really, they deserve it, but with that kind of stuff.
Look, we're happy. I'm happy to offer them a venue here in sunny Chelmsford. It's not a problem. We can only squeeze 65 people in there, but fuck it, we'll make them very welcome. I've got no problem with that. But wherever it is they play, you'll definitely go and check them out. I know Nigel's going to see them in Belgium next week, I think, because they're playing with Night Eternal and fucking Angel Witch.
Oh, fucking hell.
So it's just a fucking great lineup. Absolutely great lineup.
Yeah, so yeah, you know what? Yeah, if they came over here with the Night Eternal, I'd be all over like that.
Well, the Night Eternal are supporting Blind Guardian on their UK shows.
Oh, fuck. God's sake.
But that would mean shelling out 40 odd quid for a Blind Guardian ticket. So
yeah, I'm not at that point at the moment.
And being surrounded by Blind Guardian fans, which you know what, I'm going to stop there because I'll end up offending someone. Yeah, all dressed as a fucking Shakespearean character. I don't know, but that's a bit much for me. I think that's about it, isn't it, for January?
I think so.
That covers it.
Yeah, that's me covered.
It's been what are you grinning at down there, you fucking Prince of Arabia?
No, I just thought of something. Like like we said at the beginning that obviously we had to announce the sad news that Carl Weathers has passed away, and it just got me thinking that maybe Rocky IV was the closest that Rocky ever came to Thrash.
I'm not even going to engage in that conversation.
There will be an updated segment next week when I delve back into the annals of music to come up with another band that got close to Thrash.
To be honest, Rocky IV genuinely is the closest that franchise came to Thrash because it was released in 1986, and that's it.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, and it's like the songs, like the soundtrack of that film says, "There's no easy way out." There's no shortcut home.
It's a great soundtrack. It is a fucking great soundtrack.
Yeah.
I think only Top Gun beats it, but no, I don't know. It's 50-50, I think. Look, before we finish, just a couple of others. Just want to literally mention. I don't quite know how to pronounce this, but Gale, yeah. The guy from Saar or whatever they're called, Traverse the Bielach. I think you brought this to us, didn't you?
I did. It still needs listings, but I think we're gonna sort of do some additional roundups through the year. So I suspect I'll have some things to say about this album.
Yeah, it's a bit Devin Townsend, isn't it? The mellow end of Devin Townsend stuff. So that'll be one that we'll no doubt talk about again. I really enjoyed. The new Master album, Saints Dispelled, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, you like that. Yeah, I need to probably come back to that.
Just good old school fucking groove death metal kind of thing. Necro Weasel, A Brave New World, which I know Gav really liked. Just good old crossover thrash. Anyway, check out the new Saxon album. Give it a listen.
I haven't. I mean, the sort of lead singles were, fairly straight up Saxon. So yeah.
It's Saxon, but you know what? It's solid. It's not bad. And the other relatively big release that came out this month, there was a lot of fuss over that I just cannot fucking get into, with the new Lord Dying, Clandestine Transcendence. Can't get my head around that at all for some reason. But I know, again, Gav, who's going to be back on again in a couple of weeks to talk about this a little bit more, fucking loves that album. So it's clicked with some people. But yeah, I think that's about it. Innit? Next week, other than talking about how close something came to thrash metal or whatever, we'll be joined by Vermin Throne, new British band. Got an album out next week, I think. I think the album comes out the same day that we'll be recording the episode, so that'll be worth checking out. It's called The Cull. I think there's one single that's dropped, so go and check that. If you like bands like Hang the Bastard, stuff like that, you'll really like that. So they'll be joining us next week. And we might have a couple of announcements to throw in the mix as well next week. But you know,
announcements.
Yeah, massive, just massive. So yeah, until that, Padre, you can go back out to the desert now, back to your cave.
In the desert, there is wisdom to be found. It's also getting hot, and we've had like our 4 weeks of winter here. So
what? It's not below 25 degrees, is it?
Well, you know, there was like from about Christmas up until about 2 weeks ago, there were a couple of hairy moments when it got down to about 18.
Oh, fucking hell. Steady on.
Yeah. But now it's gone back up to like 25, 26. This, you know, I've got people, there's people that go around in coats saying it's cold. You know.
Look, it snowed in Pakistan last week, so you never know what might happen. It could come for you. So, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. You know, there's. I mean, I think I'm poised for the first time. Well, no, second time in my life to be really involved in some form of like international crisis, because like when I was in Korea in 2010, the North Koreans sank the South Korean ship, and things got a bit hairy there for a moment. But I've got a feeling again that, you know, what's going on in the world, things should get quite spicy this year. You know, I mean, I quite like the idea of doing an episode of the podcast and being like, I've got to go. A rocket's just exploded down the street. You know, it's like that would be quite metal. You know.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
No.
Podcast.
Yeah, I'm being absurd.
Well, you are a walking, talking international incident anyway. So
yeah. I mean, I find it quite funny that within like 3 or 4 months of my arrival, there's already talk of like legalizing alcohol here.
I saw that.
Yeah,
that's
Have you
get
seen...
yourself dry? They bring booze into the mix.
Yeah, I know. Have you seen the kind of preliminary pictures of the football stadiums they want to build for the World Cup in 2030?
No, I dread to think.
Right. Just if anyone's interested, they've released one, and I think it's going to be near Jeddah, which is on the west. Yeah, the west coast on the Red Sea. But having a stadium that's built into the side of a mountain, and I'm just like, you just want to kind of take the people involved aside and go, listen, just calm down. Just build a stadium, 50,000, 60,000 capacity. You don't need to put it in a mountain. You know, this isn't an installation art piece. It's a football stadium.
They're putting it in a mountain because they can. Because they've got the money to do it.
And that's asking for trouble, to be honest. I think, you know, that's an avalanche.
Yeah, there's just fucking with nature. Just too much. No. They shouldn't have the fucking World Cup anyway. So, you know. But yeah, anyway, that'll do for that. Like I said, we'll see you next week with Vermin Throne, which will be really cool. And yeah, until that point, thanks for listening and stay metal.